Hi Akshay, thank you for having me here. My name is Maneet Gohil. I am CEO and co-founder of Lal10. At Lal10, we are bringing lights in the life of all the fragmented MSMEs in the textile space spread across the country.
In this episode of the Founder Thesis podcast, I'm speaking to Maneet Gohil. Maneet Gohil is the founder of Lal10. Let me try and set some context to help you understand what Lal10 does. So, just like Oyo Rooms is a hotel chain which doesn't actually own any hotels, similarly, Lal10 is a manufacturing company which doesn't actually own any factories. The broad thesis behind this is that there is a large move towards making in India, towards manufacturing, towards creating jobs through manufacturing. And the reason why that has been a little slow to take off is because Indian manufacturing is fragmented. There are a lot of small manufacturing units, very few large giants the way China has. And an excellent way to solve this problem is the Oyo Rooms model. This is what Oyo Rooms did to the hotel industry, which was again a fragmented industry. They ensured quality, consistency, and they were responsible for demand generation. And this is what Lal10 does. They ensure quality and consistency of the product. They help the factories come up the learning chain and ensure demand generation by going out and getting export orders. Maneet is an amazing founder with a ear to the ground and a real sense of dhanda. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thank you for listening to the Founder Thesis podcast.
Okay. So, Manit, let's talk about how you became a founder first. Take me through a little bit of, a broad overview of that uh, path towards becoming a founder.
Sure, Akshay. Maybe Akshay, I can dig deeper into my childhood and I think from where I come from. I come from Gujarat, a small town called as Bhavnagar. My grandfather had a small shop. Thoroughly enjoyed sitting in his shop whenever I used to go in summer vacations, winter vacations, and got an opportunity to be there. And then I realized at that point in time that I want to do this only. So I wanted to have my own shop like my grandfather. Actually, that was like the fun because I could see him meeting a lot of people, traders, and showing his products to his customers and all. And also, whenever he used to come back from his tours, basically he was manufacturing kurtis and saris, and then he will take these kurtis and saris to nearby towns, which were like Jamnagar, Rajkot, or Ahmedabad, Surat, or up till Mumbai. And whenever he used to come, I would like literally be. It was a fanboy moment. I would ask him what all he did, whom all he met, how was his travel, how did he travel, and all. And unfortunately, my father never pursued what my grandfather was doing because my grandfather financially struggled to meet ends. So my father became the first engineer in our entire family, and I became the second engineer. And my father did a very, I would say, not very cool or very boring job throughout his entire tenure. He was working in a public sector company for most of his years as working. And then as I became an engineer, I realized that my passion was to do something which was like a shopkeeper, right? So, and since I hail from a small town, I had a lot of empathy, understanding of these people, what they look like, what they behave, what they talk, what they eat, and all, right? And there was a huge opportunity which I realized that lies in rural India. Also, because of my father's job, I shifted almost around 9 schools during the tenure of first 15 years of my schooling life, and during those time we have always been in small towns like Bharuch or Guna or Ankleshwar or Bhuj, and even places like Auraiya in Uttar Pradesh. So I've always, throughout the first 22, 23 years of my life, have been in small towns in itself, and realize that there's huge opportunity to be done. These guys are creating something for their own economy. They are consuming their own products in their own economy. And I think while the largest of the brands like an HUL or a PNG or something like a Nestle would have reached out to the down remote areas, but there's a lot of production which otherwise it's a reverse production which happens in small towns, which can actually not only be consumed in small towns but can be taken to different urban cities actually. And if the opportunity lies, then couldn't they sell these products cross border from India to the world? And I think that's where it all started, this entire idea. And to be very honest, if I look last 6 years of my journey, if I would have been known earlier that the sector has been so tough to deal, firstly dealing with the rural India, and secondly dealing in terms of the textile space, both of it is extremely challenging. Being an engineer who was only passionate of doing and knowing what to do but not how to do it actually, I think I might have maybe double think over it. I think it has taken a long course of journey for us to I think understand the sector and the problems it has, because being a fairly demographical and geographical challenges which India has to offer spread across the country, it becomes very interesting to tackle how you need to reach out to these rural parts and then understand what these guys are manufacturing. But I think one very important core lever of value which we have between us, like I'm going to say me, myself, and my other co-founders, is that we all come from small towns, have a very strong empathy towards them. So while we have been on net, there has never been a second thought to us that कि यार कुछ और कर लेते हैं, and there can be a larger different problem which can help us get more funds or scale much faster and stuff. But there has always been a plan A for us, and which was this कि यार गांव में चलते हैं, वहां पर माल उठाते हैं, और उसके बाद let's take their products to different uh, parts of the country what they are already consuming in their local ecosystem. And possibly if an opportunity comes, then why cannot we alter the product, bring in relevant value addition so that the products can be taken to international markets actually. So yeah, I think that's where it all started, from the town of Bhavnagar, where my grandfather is. My company is also called as Bhagwan Das Retail Private Limited. So Bhagwan Das was my grandfather's name. And I thought that, yeah, I think I didn't wanted it to be like a handicraft or a textile export in internet private limited, something like that, because I always also coming in from a small town, I think I also wanted it to be a very traditional name actually of the private limited entity. um, and I think there have been enough, like when I was growing up, people like I think Dhirubhai Ambani and all these guys, have been reading about them, how these, like they were also normal people like us, right? And like I would say not even as fortunate like us, like they were even under unfortunate and stuff financially, and then they have made their things moving across the streets in Gujarat and then to different parts of the world, and then setting up their larger organizations in India. So I think there's an opportunity which we also realized. And I think from the very small, when I was a kid, I thought that I would always be a businessman. Maybe if it's a small shop, or if it's a organization.
Money did you start with, and what did you use that
Yeah,
money
so I
for?
think very interesting actually. So I started this journey in 2014 actually. So maybe I'll give a quick background actually. So I did my engineering. My father was an engineer. I had to be an engineer. So did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering. Post which worked in consulting. I got three offers and then realized that consulting is the one which will give me opportunity to travel. And I wanted to travel actually. So joined that for a couple of years, and then got into an MBA, like every engineer would want to do an MBA, so that his or her pay scale increases and stuff. So wrote CAT, didn't got into IIMs but got into NITI, which is in supply chain and operations in Mumbai. Now it's called as IIM Mumbai, the college. But that is when in 2014, while I was doing my MBA, I realized that I'm just wasting my money, my father's money, my time and everything into just doing education, which I didn't wanted to. And I've always fairly been a mediocre kind of, I would say an average kind of kid. Even in engineering, I would just barely study to pass. And even in my MBAs, it was not, I was not having a lot of fun in the education stuff, right? So then I thought, yeah, I'll do my business, let's say. And I didn't tell my parents actually. And my mom was supportive. So I told my mom that I need to start a private limited entity and I need two directors. So one of it, you only become it. So basically we became directors, and she didn't do anything. She didn't know about what's going to happen and stuff. So registered the entity, and I didn't have any money actually at that point in time, because the only money source of money was the pocket money for mess fees and other things which used to happen. But interestingly, my college fee was around 3.5 odd lakh rupees a year. My father paid that amount, and while I was coming after paying my first year fees, I had the slip in my hand, fee slip, and in front of my mess there was a Canara Bank kiosk, and these guys were saying that since you guys are from a good college, we would offer education loans if you would submit your these things, fee slips and stuff. And that was 3.5 lakh rupees, some discount on that. I think 3.25 odd lakh rupees they wanted to disburse. So I double checked with them that where this money would go. They said that it will come to where whatever account you will give, not like, so it can be yours, your parents and stuff. And I did ask them what kind of consent and signatures do you want. And at that point in time, they said that we are fine, that whatever you guys, you yourself can fill it and stuff. So I gave all of my submitted all of my college documents to them for that year's curriculum fees and stuff, and then they immediately disbursed within 10 days. So that was an IIT Bombay, Canara Bank, because the IIT Bombay and IIT were adjacent colleges, and they gave me that 3.5 lakh rupees. That became my first seed fund actually, because that's what. So I would say Canara Bank was the first, I would say, investor in the
Amazing.
company then, and and then use that capital for fairly around 1.5 years until I got out of college. I used that capital. Another good interesting thing was here there were a lot of private limited companies registered acting as startups or maybe startups back in 2014. No one has heard their names, and trying to get hold of students in our college, calling it as in weekend projects or internships and stuff. And we and kids were like very competitive, right? Anyway, it's a good college. People are also very competitive, and then they would, this random companies no one has heard about, people would fight for getting an internship in these companies, and companies would eventually hire the best of the cream of the uh, college. And one of the companies, I don't remember, I think that company's name, it was into sports e-commerce. So that the founder came in from US, or he was still in US, and he hired 5 6 of us from Niti as interns. He didn't pay us anything. I think we were very happy with the certificates he was giving us. Then I realized that this is really awesome. But if I registered my registered startup and a company getting into an internship in my own college, people will give no fish to it, right? Here we know this guy, and like this is like I think random stuff going around. So what I did is that I registered my company as a private limited entity with my mother as the other director there, and went literally to all the campuses across the country. Either I am Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, then several NIFTs, NID, and some of the NITs actually, and then uh, did the same thing there. Here went to the placecom, told that I need internship students, and this is my idea. I want to basically work with rural India and then take their products and create a platform for them to sell. And in a span of like a couple of days to 3 days, I got almost 450 odd CVs from students across Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, NIFTs, and
Amazing.
all of these places. And like I couldn't like actually vet, and I did not know here which one is the right guy, which one who to hire, not to hire, and stuff. So what I did is that I had a bunch of, like, I've always been a little extrovert and social person in the college as well. So I had a lot of friends in my lobby, entire my wing, and I distributed this 400 odd CVs across 40 of my friends. So 10 of the CVs to across all of these guys, and they had to interview them. And these guys were also having fun because they were interviewing kids who were also in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, which are little superior colleges. But on behalf of Lal10 and in a span of like 10 days, we hired like 22 people. The intent at that point in time was to understand the supply market actually. Where are these? Because see, my understanding has predominantly been only for Bhavnagar, because I've stayed there. Actually, I understand how people look like there, what they make and stuff, right? But I do not know what are the other manufacturing clusters across the country. So intentionally and little, maybe you can say a little racist, but we went ahead to hire kids which belonged to particular states and had some empathy level into understanding what their local manufacturing is. So, for instance, when we went to Calcutta, there were a couple of I am Calcutta. There were a couple of students who were also from the West Bengal region. They understood and have heard about their families or family members traveling to Shantipur, Folia, Murshidabad, and these are the belts where manufacturing happens, so like in Bhagalpur and Bihar and stuff. And similarly, we reached out to NIT, NIFT, Jodhpur, where the kids could travel to places until Udaipur or you can say Jodhpur and eventually Jaisalmer, where a lot of other craft manufacturing was happening. And similarly, the I am Ahmedabad kids could travel up to north until Kutch and stuff. And so that's how we penetrated deep across the country without any capital, and still got a lot of feedback in terms of the voices of manufacturers. Either they were very nano size or micro size or a small size across all of these belts. And I think first, I would say until I was out of college, I realized that there's a huge opportunity. This is literally the largest employment generation sector across the country, which is creative manufacturing after agriculture. So इंडिया में या तो लोग खेती बाड़ी करते हैं या फिर लोग सी 70% ऑफ इंडिया इज इन रूरल इंडिया, राइट? हम लोग लाइक वी आर सिटिंग इन अर्बन इंडिया, वी नेवर रियलाइज्ड हमें हमारे लिए यही इंडिया है एक्चुअली. But actually, India is something else. India is 70% of the people which are sitting in rural belts across the country. And वहां पर भी लोग खेती बाड़ी करते हैं या they do creative manufacturing. And creative manufacturing is like the largest employment generation sector in the country after agriculture. This is a huge sector. This is literally a I would say a national emergency, I would say, in terms of right now, wherein we need to skill these guys and make them relevant for the world. I think maybe we can talk it about it later, but yeah, in a matter of those that period, onboarded and understood all of these guys. And जब कॉलेज खत्म हो गया उसके बाद पैसे भी खत्म हो गए जो कैनरा बैंक से मिले थे वो लोन वाले. And because I had to give some reimbursement, travel reimbursement to all of these kids, uh, and stuff. And then फिर कॉलेज में प्लेसमेंट शुरू हो गई. एंड माई पेरेंट्स ऑल्सो गॉट टू नो कि प्लेसमेंट भी है. एंड आई वॉज श्योर कि मेरे को तो यही करना है, और मैंने इतना एफर्ट मारा है इसमें, और माई हार्ट वॉज हेयर, सो माई सोल वॉज देयर एक्चुअली विद लालटेन. And somehow my father convinced ki yaar, you do get a job, and then you do couple of years, get some cash flows, and then you can start off your own business. So he has always been, I would say, little bit conservative, like. So he has never he didn't wanted to take a lot of risk throughout his life. He has only been working in one public sector company. He didn't shift and stuff, so he wanted it to be plain simple and vanilla. So I then somehow got lucky. So I got placement में क्या है कि, so I was, since I was doing this, I was participating in some B plan competitions and winning those competitions also. So some newspapers covered us, and then some seniors from at who were working at Flipkart, they realized कि यार I'm this guy, and I'm in Nitty right now. They were also coming to Nitty to take for placements. So my placement eventually happened on a -1 day, because the date used to start a day earlier in the evening. And they told, so there were two, three companies, Amazon, Snapdeal, and Flipkart. And of this, two of them offered me. And I wanted to get into Flipkart, because then it was कि यार सचिन बिनी कौन है, कैसे दिखते हैं, एक बार इनको जाके देखें, because these guys were like demigods for aspiring entrepreneurs. And फिर यही था कि यार दैट फैन बॉय मूवमेंट की एक बार अब जाएंगे बैंगलोर और समझते हैं. सो आई टुक फ्लिपकार्ट and then got into Flipkart. And it was very interesting because my role was not into supply chain management, which my college was famous for, but my role was into more like strategy and design in customer experience, which was also a wing under Sachin. And it was more like a chief of staff kind of experience in terms of understanding and directly working with a team which used to work under him. So वहाँ मेरा first day I remember कि Sachin Binny were there in the orientation. They were like literally 70, 80 of us from different MBA colleges across the country joined as management trainees. And I think it was literally a fanboy moment because यार ये कौन लोग हैं जिसने इतनी बड़ी कंपनी बनाई है और कैसे कर सकते हैं मतलब ये सब चीजें. And I think that's how very granularly it all started. एंड वहां पर मैं 15-18 महीने रहा एंड देन रियलाइज कि यार आई वांटेड टू डू समथिंग ऑफ माय ओन. आई टोल्ड सचिन एंड कि मेरे को अब निकलना है एंड आई आई हैव दिस ड्रीम and stuff. And he wished, because Flipkart anyway was a very big engine, he wished me good luck. And I think despite the pedigree was so premium at Flipkart, I think everyone literally were literally better than me in the office. And I think it's a lot of learning opportunity to be from everyone. And my senior directors and VPs would also encourage when I used to tell them that, see, I have this side hustle going around, and they would say that you should jump into doing it if you solely feel about it. So last day I told,
Your side hustle was active. Like, were you actually doing
yeah.
trading? Like,
So see, it was active, but it was also very exhaustive because during the day, so I have always been a person which would not do something half-heartedly, right? So even if I was at Flipkart, I would give my soul to it, and I was doing my day job there, and then after coming, I would do the night job, and until morning hours, I would work for talking to all of these interns which were still in the colleges and working as my team. So there was a team of almost around 20 to 25 people, which was always there as interns for us. Uh, and yeah,
and what was the business doing? Like, you were doing
yeah,
trading. Like, you would procure from tier three, whatever interior locations, and then you would sell it
yes,
in
correct.
cities.
So it would be like
Okay. And this was sold through retailers or sold to like sold through online, like through a
yeah,
website, or
so everything actually, we try to do everything actually. So see, matlab, see business model और I would say कि मतलब ये था कि कैश फ्लोज आने चाहिए, धंधा होना चाहिए, माल बिकना चाहिए, पैसा आने चाहिए. आई थिंक ये था, कैसे भी बिके कैसा भी हो, आई थिंक वी वर fine with it. So we actually listed ourselves on Alibaba, we listed ourselves on India Mart, we listed ourselves on Trade India. We were like taking all of these goods and running on the streets of Bangalore, giving it to aunties in housing complexes or boutiques in Bangalore. Or then our aspirations also increased. So we were now working with John Players and ITC Wills Lifestyle, Fab India, and some of these. So, but it was pure play trading as a side hustle which was happening, and it was predominantly what the local artisans would always do. They would pack their bags, and we always have seen people from Kashmir going house to house, right, with their shawls, or people from Gujarat coming in with their saris, right? Or we have been to the exhibition centers like a Delhi Hat or a Kala Ghoda or a Chitrakala Parishad, right, in Bangalore and stuff. So we have always seen these people. सो नाउ व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू कि इसमें से बहुत ही लकी और फ्यू क्रीमी लेयर था जो इन सब एग्जीबिशंस में जाता था, बट 98% ऑफ द आर्टिसंस तो जाते ही नहीं थे वहां पर. तो हम उनका माल लेके आते थे और उनके फोटोज वीडियोस रिकॉर्ड करते थे, उसको हमारे वेबसाइट पे भी डालते थे, और प्रीडोमिनेटली हम सेल्स ऑफलाइन भी करते थे. रात को रात भर एक्चुअली हम लोग अलीबाबा वाली कॉल्स करते थे, एंड क्योंकि वो इंटरनेशनल कॉल्स होती थी, और दिन में हम लोग ये इंडिया मार्ट और ट्रेड इंडिया. सो लिटरली फॉर दैट ऑलमोस्ट 15 odd months after leaving Flipkart, Sanchit, I, and Albin. So now, like Sanchit and Albin, my co-founders joined me. Really very fortunate because I think they have been my first partners. I would say, like I can literally preempt Sanchit or Albin when I have to fight with them. I can never preempt my wife. I know her since last 12 years, but I've spent so much of time with Sanchit and Alvin that I know what's going around in their head, and we complement our skill sets. I think they are very much calm, composed, and in like they're
they had joined as
nahi nahi nahi
interns,
nahi.
yeah?
So
Like, they were like
nahi nahi
initially
nahi. So
interns, and then
Sanchit
okay,
and I, we were batchmates in engineering. We were batchmates in Nitty, and
okay,
we were also at Flipkart and staying together actually. And Sanchit knew that I started this in Nitty, and then he knew it when we were staying together. And he comes from Aligarh. His parents were into metal trading. Aligarh is known for metal trading actually. And that's when he and I, like, we just like, he also got excited, and I was also alone actually doing this. So that's when we both started it. And then Albin is my third co-founder. He was my school junior in Kendriya Vidyalaya Noida, and he went to IIT Madras. And then he then came. He was working as an early employee at Avanti, which was into education, and then he came to Bangalore, and we all three started doing this together actually. So and this all started simultaneously when we left Flipkart, like on, that was 26th of January. We left Flipkart. That was a holiday, and that day decided कि यार अब पत्ते डाल देते हैं. And उसके बाद literally उसके बाद we didn't sleep actually for almost around 18 odd months, like, क्योंकि रात भर वहाँ कॉल करते थे, दिन में यहाँ कॉल करते थे. Our health also got spoiled, and eventually then we realized कि sales होने लग गई, and that was a lot of motivation actually for us. So we
What was the trajectory of sales? Like when you quit, how much were you doing monthly
see, so annually
sales?
I can tell. So when it was a side hustle, we did roughly around a crore kind of business in that year, 1.2 crores. And
And what was the margin in
the
that?
margin back in those days would be close to around 22%, which we did on
Okay.
the side hustle thing. But all of that would also go on to
Mm.
reimbursements and other things. So we didn't make any money out of it actually. When we moved out of Flipkart, we had enough savings between Sanchit, myself, and Albin had some savings because he had a small tenure of work at Avanti. So that helped us as our seed money again. Um, Another thing was that winning competitions was fairly a good cash flow for us, because whatever competition we would go, we would win that. These are like B plan competitions across the country in colleges, right? So that became one of the things कि यार उससे हमारा घर चलता था actually, OPEX, हमारे घर का की रेंट और कुक की सैलरी और जो भी राशन वगैरह का खर्चा. So we literally went to, you can say, every single colleges like IIT Madras, Delhi College of Engineering, ISB Idea, or IIM Indore, Narsi Monji, or IIM Ahmedabad, and won literally IIT Bombay, Eureka, and we won literally around 18 lakhs worth of cash prizes. Because वहां पर क्या होता है, बी प्लान कॉम्पिटिशन होते हैं हर कॉलेज में हर साल. वहां पर आपका अगर स्टार्टअप है और आप वहां कुछ करते हो, तो आप जाओ और रजिस्टर करो, एंड देन देयर वुड बी अ ग्रुप ऑफ पैनल who would basically judge you, and then you can win. So वहां पे मेजोरिटी और स्टार्टअप्स वो पेपर वाले स्टार्टअप होते थे, पेपर पेन वाले, की अभी तक हम सोच रहे हैं हम ऐसा करेंगे. हमारा तो धंधा चल रहा था फुल, और हमारा सब कुछ सही था, तो हम लोग वी वर लाइक क्लियर
Wow.
विनर्स एवरीवेयर. सो
Yeah.
सो सो 18
Right,
लाख
right,
रुपए
right.
became our, like you can say, 18 लाख रुपए वो और मेरी संचित की सेविंग एट फ्लिपकार्ट became our capital in our bootstrap journey for the first 18 months after we left. And
And so you said once a year annual when you
hmm,
were at Flipkart. उसके बाद after 18 months
so
कितना हो गया था?
so उसके बाद हम लोग 2.8 crores पे थे. So we were at around 2.8 crores and in that year. And that was primarily all bootstrapped actually, because we were three of us and then some bunch of interns who were working with us and doing stuff. Yeah.
And this was a inventory led model, right? Like you would purchase the inventory on your books and then you
No,
would try to
not
sell
really
it.
actually. So we were more like intermediaries or aggregators for these MSMEs or artisan folks who were selling sarees and dupattas and stuff, and take their products and eventually uh, sell it to boutiques or aunties and everywhere here there. और नहीं बिकता था तो ये बेसिकली वापस आते थे और वापस चले जाते थे. धंधा होता कैसे, धंधा क्या है कि अब कोई बंदा महेश्वर में बैठा हुआ है, साड़ी बना रहा है, उसने 200 साड़ी बनाई, वो ट्रेन में रख के आया बैंगलोर, उसने 200 साड़ियां दुकानों में दिखाई, उसकी 50 बिकी, 150 रह गई. अब उसको 150 साड़ी वापस लेके जानी है महेश्वर, और 6 महीने बाद वापस आना है. तो हम वो 150 साड़ी हमारे पास रख लेते थे एक्चुअली, कि यार आप एंड दे यूज्ड टू ट्रस्ट अस, कि बिकॉज वी हैव बीन टू देयर विलेजेस एंड स्टफ, एंड so they used to trust us. We stayed with them, we like ate with them. These guys are literally very warm. बड़े शहरों में आज मैं किसी को बोलूँ ना कि मेरे को आपके घर पे आके आज रहना है और खाना पीना खाना है, तो मेरे को 2 बार सोचेंगे लोग कि कौन है यार ये आदमी, क्यों करना चाहता है ये। बट आप गांव में जा रहे हो और गांव में आप बोलोगे कि यार मैं बड़े शहर से आया हूँ लेकिन मैं देखने के लिए आया हूँ आपका माल कैसा बनता है, क्या होता है। वो खुद ही बोल देंगे कि आप एक काम करो, हमारे यहाँ खाना खाओ, अच्छा रहने की जगह नहीं, आप रुक जाओ एक्चुअली। सो दीज गाइस आर लिटरली, सो वो ट्रस्ट लेवल उनका डे जीरो से ही होता है, हमारा ट्रस्ट लेवल नहीं होता एक्चुअली, अब हम बड़े शहरों में जो लोग रहते हैं उनका। सो सो आई थिंक या सो उनका ट्रस्ट लेवल था, वो हमारा माल रख के जाते थे। वी ऑल्सो कॉम्प्रीहेंडेड एंड कोरिलेटेड दैट एक्चुअली कि यार हम आपका माल बेचेंगे। सो दैट वाज आई वुड से an undue responsibility for us as well, while the others were trusting us.
And so you would uh, like, would you create a catalog and all that? Yeah, yeah. मतलब like, would you like everything that you had to sell उसकी फोटो लेके कहीं ऑनलाइन अपलोड वो सब होता था, या
नहीं
that was
नहीं
not
करते
needed?
थे, तो हम खुद ही करते थे एक्चुअली। सो वी हैड अ कैमरा, वी वुड टेक photographs of all of these products. Like I still remember, Albin would hold ऐसा, उसका बॉक्सर में वो खड़ा है और अपनी साड़ी लेके ऐसा खड़ा हुआ है, मैं फोटो खींच रहा हूँ और क्रॉप कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि उसके बॉक्सर और उसके पाँव ना दिखे। और तो तो ये सब चीजें काफी खुद ही करते थे। आई रिमेम्बर कि हमने जब फर्स्ट अपना पेड इंटर्न रखा था एक्चुअली, ये लड़का था निफ्ट हैदराबाद का। तो ये इसको ऑफिस का एड्रेस दिया, तो हमारा अपार्टमेंट था। तो ये हमारे अपार्टमेंट में जैसे ही इसने नॉक किया, इसने कहा ये लालटेन है, तो हमने कहा हाँ आजा अंदर। तो he was shocked to see three guys in boxers and trying to do something on their laptops and वो घबरा गया बेचारा। तो उसने कहा कि मैं सोच के आऊंगा कि अगले अगले दिन कि मैं आऊंगा कि नहीं आऊंगा यहाँ पर आपके पास। तो उसने कहा यही ऑफिस है, मैंने कहा हाँ यही ऑफिस है, यही होगा। एक हमने फरलेंको से एक टेबल रेंट की हुई थी, फरलेंको रेंटो मोजो से। वो स्क्वायर टेबल थी, उसमें मैं, संचित एल्विन और वो अभिषेक, वो चौथा इंटर्न यहाँ बैठता था। हम दिन भर यहीं बैठते थे। दैट वाज आवर फर्स्ट ऑफिस काइंड ऑफ सेटअप। but uh, but yeah, I think it has been a great journey since then, because I think very fortunate that we have been very patient actually in terms of building what we wanted to do. Firstly actually क्या कि the more tough the problem is, the stronger differentiator you create to be in a market. कल को किसी को अगर capital they can, and they have been large corporates like a Reliance or someone else, right? They have been putting in so much of capital to get hold of understanding who these people are and stuff, and it literally is not possible with capital, because it takes time to build trust and relationships with these people, understanding who they are, what they want to hear. Generally क्या है, बड़े कंपनियां और बड़े शहर के लोग प्रॉब्लम अपनी तरह से समझते हैं और सोल्यूशन भी अपनी तरफ से देना चाहते हैं, rather than उनकी प्रॉब्लम उनके नजरिए से देखी जाए और वो सॉल्व की जाए एक्चुअली। आई थिंक दैट क्रिएट्स अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग leverage to grow. And I think, yeah, I think fortunate to have a very strong manufacturers, because we are very strong in terms of our supply, and it's a supply constrained sector. So we have a very, yeah,
What is what is it that you're selling? Are you selling hundreds and thousands of unique
hmm,
products, or is there some sort of a, like say, a sari with a specific pattern which has 100
correct,
prints of it, like because when you tell me that these are MSMEs and these are creative products, so I want to understand like what is the level of, like is it like one SKU has X number of inventory in it, or you have like thousands of SKUs and each one has like a handful of inventory for
correct.
each one?
No, I think fair question, Akshay. So we are in a textile space. So maybe I can take you through our journey in terms of how it has been in terms of products and in terms of our markets as well. See, so we are in the textile space. So textile means anything, any product which is made out of textile. Either it can be a soft home furnishing, like a cushion cover, curtain, bed sheet, or a table linen comforter, right? Which are soft home products. Or it can be an apparel, which can be women's wear, men's wear, kids wear. Typically these forms, right? Our journey started in 2017 as a post-tab entity, right? So at that point in time, we were only as a adding value as a trader for the goods which the rural India was manufacturing. So these would be typically a dupatta or a sari or a kurti. And India is a fairly kurti manufacturing country. So India mein there are a lot of kurtis which are being manufactured and stuff. So that was what purely we would be trading until 2019.
This was like mass produced. Like what was the volume per SKU? And SKU is stock keeping unit. So basically, one particular design or whatever. उसके कितनी volume होती थी?
So you would say that the depth in per SKU was not much because it was every product would be one of it kind, and the kind of people we were selling it to also wanted a large assortment of SKUs for themselves. So this would be like 50 varieties of saris they would want, or they would want 200 varieties of kurtis and stuff, because these were typically offline retail outlets like a boutique, or people who would generally wanted to become resellers and sell it, right? That's was how.
Okay,
In
ठीक है. So like, largely one of its kind. So इसमें cataloging must have been so hard if you
Yeah.
actually had to click photos of each and
Yeah.
everything that you were selling. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would have been a challenge, but the primarily source of selling products was not also online. It was offline. So
तो
creating,
offline के लिए you did not do
you
catalogs.
don't need
There's no
catalogs,
point.
and
Yeah.
on online we were taking affiliate channels like an Alibaba, India Mart, Trade India, where you do not need to put every SKU. Actually, you just need to put limited SKUs which can show the assortment, varieties and strengths for you as a manufacturer, and all the product types. जैसे क्वेश्चन कवर अगर 20 तरह के होते हैं तो 20 तरह के आपने दिखा दी, जिसमें ब्लॉक प्रिंट हो रही है, एम्ब्रॉयडरी हो रही है, किसी में डिफरेंट वोवन फैब्रिक्स लगे हैं या केम्ब्रिक लगा है वगैरह वगैरह. एंड सिमिलरली आप अपैरल के वेराइटीज आप दिखा दो कि आपकी ये स्ट्रेंथ है. सो कैटलॉग
And
वाज इन अ B2B is limited actually.
ठीक है, got it. Okay. And the way you would sell would be like cash on delivery or cash after, like say
So it
90
was
days or something.
so it was a domestic market, and we didn't have a lot of working capital money kind of stuff as well. So it was cash on delivery कि आप आपने
Let me,
बल्क में ऑर्डर
yeah,
दिया है,
1 second. Yeah.
and now you take the products and give us all the money. So that was
And
how it
would you offer
was.
returns? Like कुछ नहीं बिका अगर, like unsold inventory.
Not really, because all of
Okay.
that, I still remember we worked with Myntra and Reliance AGO in the beginning, and they had some things where they would want to return if it doesn't sell. So stuff like that, but that happened for fairly a period of around a year at that point in time, and then we didn't do it because we didn't also envision to sell in a domestic market and doing this. But gradually what happened is that we started to reach out to urban brands like a Fab India, and Fab India already had access to all of these products. But then we realized here, why only Fab India have access to it? So I think one proof point which worked out was कि यार हमारा माल Fab India लेने लग गया था. But then other things we realized कि यार why should they have all the fun in sourcing these products, and let's take these products to different people who aspire to have a Fab India supply, like someone like a W, Biba, Anita Dongre, Westside, Pantaloons, and all of these domestic large retailers like a Shopper Stop and all, right? So I think the next aspiration became कि यार अब boutiques और इन सबको तो हम कुछ value add कर नहीं रहे हैं, इनको बस हम trading करते हैं, right? And कुछ value add करना है तो फिर बड़े brands के पास चलते हैं, वहां पर business करते हैं. So, and that became very interesting journey pre-pandemic, because for the 2.5 odd years we did sell to these large brands. We understood how these guys think in terms of quality, in terms of production timeliness, right? In terms of a lot of other things. And three engineers who did not have a background of textiles, we literally burnt our fingers left, right, center into doing everything and understanding ourselves. कि यार कपड़े में स्प्लिट कब हो जाता है, कपड़े की क्वालिटी क्या होनी चाहिए, धागा क्या होना चाहिए, फैब्रिक क्या होना चाहिए, कब बनना चाहिए, किस टाइम पे चले जाए. एंड सी आई टेल यू दैट द ब्यूटी ऑफ आवर कंट्री इज कि यार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की अपॉर्चुनिटी तो बहुत है, सबको काम करना है, बट लोग प्रोफेशनल नहीं है. सो जैसे ही आप किसी से काम करना चाहोगे ना, वो आपको यहाँ बैठे बैठे बोलेगा कि यार मैं सर बना रहा हूँ आपका माल, बट वो बना नहीं रहा होगा शायद आपका माल. सो पीपल ट्राई टू कट कॉर्नर्स टू मेक गुड्स इन इंडिया, right? And that's how Indian manufacturing has struggled throughout the many years, and it has not been at par to, let's say, even Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Cambodia. Let away like China तो बहुत ही आगे है, right? In terms of this organized manufacturing. So अगर आप देखोगे तो चाइना में क्या है, वहां पर अलीबाबा, ली एंड फंग से काम चल जाता है, क्योंकि वहां पर डिस्कवरी प्रॉब्लम है, बड़े बायर्स को छोटे बायर सप्लायर्स नहीं पता, क्योंकि छोटे सप्लायर अच्छे हैं तो अलीबाबा पे जाते हैं, देख लेते हैं, ढूंढ लेते हैं। इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं है। इंडिया में तो यार हमारे पास इतने इंटरनेशनल बायर भी थे उस ड्यूरेशन में, 2019 20 21 में, जो हमें बोलते थे कि यार मैंने अलीबाबा से ये 3 फैक्ट्री से काम कराया है, आप एक काम करो, मेरे को कोऑर्डिनेट कर, मेरे से माल नहीं चाहिए उनको, उनको ये चाहिए कि यार आप लोग, यू गाइस आर लुकिंग गुड टू अस, यू गाइस आर जेन्युइन गाइस, ये 3 फैक्ट्रियां हैं, ये मेरे को टाइम पे माल नहीं दे रही हैं, आप प्लीज देखो कि आप कुछ कर सकते हो, उनको डरा सकते हो, कुछ कर सकते हो कि आप माल टाइमली ले सको। So this was what really we learned in the 2.5 odd years in 2019 and 2020, 2021, where we saw कि यार Indian manufacturers cut corners to make product, right? And and our understanding in terms of how the big brands think in the domestic market also evolved. And 3 engineers doing this, I think we learned literally every single thing which a guy sitting in NIFT or an NID would be knowing about, or even buyers or merchandisers in the textile space and large companies would know about it, right? So that's how it all evolved. And then the journey changed fairly very interestingly, because इंडिया में क्या हो गया कि उसके बाद पैंडेमिक के बाद ना, द लोकल डोमेस्टिक मार्केट वाज स्टक। a lot of big brands didn't know कि यार कब माल अब बिकेगा, इन्वेंट्री में जो पड़ा हुआ है, तो उन्होंने 1 साल के लिए पूरा धंधा ही बंद कर दिया एक्चुअली। और हमारा
And
हमारा
this is when
बिजनेस,
the Future Group also collapsed. Future Group would
हाँ,
have also been
so
like
हम
one
लोग
big retail
so
customer.
yeah, so Future was one of our buyers as well, so we were giving
I
it to
can
Big
imagine.
Bazaar also, right? And
Uh,
वहां पर and we couldn't imagine, because like we had all of this hard work and earned money, and it got stuck somewhere actually, right? Whatever it was. And then we realized कि यार अब इंडिया में काम बहुत ही फूक फूक के करेंगे और धीरे धीरे करेंगे, but let's go international. So in
one quick
Feb,
question before
hmm,
international. Once you started working with, like, say, a Future Group kind of large
hmm,
setups, so then you would need depth in SKU. Na? Like one of a kind SKUs wala approach to one nahi chalega, na?
correct,
Because they would
correct,
approve a design and
correct,
then they would ask you to supply 100 or 1,000 or something, like, some
correct,
number
correct,
like that. So how
correct.
did you
So
achieve that then? Then you would
correct.
give order to your मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पार्टनर्स के, ये डिजाइन अप्रूव हुआ है, इसके मुझे हर बंदे से 50-50 बनवाने हैं, ये लाइक।
Correct. So not only Future, I would say, but all of these retail brands, right? Like an Anita Dongre's Grassroot, or let's say ITC Will's Lifestyle, Fab India, whom all we worked with. These guys were large B2B guys. So उनको एक SKU में 500 पीस चाहिए, 2000 पीस चाहिए, 1500 पीस चाहिए. So I think that's what we also learned कि यार काम कैसे करवाना है इन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स से. अच्छा, इंटरेस्टिंगली क्या था कि जो मैन्युफैक्चरर है ना, और अगर मैं अपने ग्रैंडफादर की बात भी करूं, मेरे दादा का सीन, तो वो माल बनाते थे और उसके बाद वो माल बना के दुकानों में रखते थे, और वो दुकानों पे माल बिकता था तो इनको पैसे मिलते थे, या फिर इनको माल वापस मिलता था। सिमिलरली जो हम शुरुआत के 1.5 साल करते थे, कारीगर माल माल बैंगलोर लेके आते थे, दुकानों में नहीं बिका तो हमारे पास रखते थे, हमसे भी नहीं बिका तो वापस लेके जाते थे, राइट? सो उनका वर्किंग कैपिटल सिर्फ इन्वेंट्री में फंसा रहता था पूरे साल। सो माय ग्रैंडफादर डिड अ बिजनेस ऑफ 2-3 odd crores इन अ ईयर, बट उनका जितना भी मार्जिन या मुनाफा था, प्रॉफिट, वो हमेशा वर्किंग कैपिटल में स्टक होता था एक्चुअली। बट अगर आप किसी भी मैन्युफैक्चरर को पूछोगे कि बॉस तुम्हें ये नहीं करना और तुम्हें होलसेल का धंधा चाहिए, तो वो तुरंत झपटे से ले लेगा, क्योंकि उसको पता है कि यार मेरे को पूरे साल काम करना है, मेरे को स्टडी इनकम मिलेगा, और भले मैं भी क्रेडिट दे दूंगा कि यार मेरे को आप 2 महीने बाद पैसे दे देना, बट मेरे को पूरा पूरा पैसा टाइम पे मिल जाए। So it become easier to do a B2B business in depth with particular SKUs in these. But यहाँ पर है ना एक चीज अनआंसर्ड हो गई एक्चुअली। वहां पर ये था कि यार ये सारे लोग क्या थे कि ये देवर कटिंग कॉर्नर्स, प्रोफेशनल तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। भले आपका ट्रस्ट लेवल है, सब कुछ है, बट दीज गाइज वुड से कि सर आपका धागा आ गया है, आपका माल 20 दिन बाद मिल जाएगा। आप 18वें दिन फोन करोगे तो बोलेगा कि 20 दिन मिल जाएगा, बट 20वें दिन में बोलोगे तो सर धागा नहीं आया एक्चुअली, क्योंकि ये हो गया वो हो गया, राइट? तो तो अब क्या है कि यार, अब क्या है कि सिटिंग इन Bangalore or in Delhi, we cannot know कि यार what's going around in Bhagalpur, what's going around in Shantipur. These guys are genuinely good, but but you need to have eyes and ears in these places. And that's when it all started कि we started hiring micro entrepreneurs in these places. And ITC का ना एक मॉडल था, ई चौपाल, चौपाल करके बोलते थे वो, राइट? सो वहां पर दे स्टार्टेड इन अर्ली 90s, दे स्टार्टेड एग्रीगेटिंग फार्मर्स, क्रिएटिंग एन इकोसिस्टम विद फार्मर्स, जहां पर वो उनको फीडबैक देते थे कि यार ये अनाज लगाओ, ये फर्टिलाइजर लगाओ, ये आउटपुट आएगा, एंड दे वुड यूज टू granularly monitor things so that their production would be in line with what they are thinking and what farmers could deliver. So eventually they were
I think
running.
they would also start selling the input, like the fertilizers and all, and
Correct,
it
exactly,
became a
right.
commerce play. Like, and then they would buy the output from the farmer also.
करेक्ट, करेक्ट। तो
Uh,
हमारी लर्निंग भी यही थी। सो फ्रॉम आईटीसी ओनली, जो आईटीसी में जिसने चालू किया था, मिस्टर चांद दास, ही वाज वन ऑफ द सीईओ एट आईटीसी, एंड ही वाज अ जज along with प्रशांत प्रकाश फ्रॉम एक्सेल एट आईआईटी बॉम्बे यूरेका। एंड वहां पर हम कंपटीशन जीत गए थे, तो इन्होंने हमें प्राइज दिया। उसके अगले दिन मेरे को मिस्टर चांद ने कॉल किया और उन्होंने कहा कि मैं कल तुम्हारा जज था और मैं आईटीसी का सीईओ हूँ, और तुम लोग जो भी कर रहे हो इसको थोड़ा तुम्हें मॉडिफाई करना पड़ेगा एक्चुअली। तो इट्स नॉट लाइक ऑलवेज आपको आईटीसी का सीईओ फोन करेगा जब आप बूटस्ट्रैप कंपनी चला रहे हो, तब तो हम तो ऑलरेडी, हमें लगा कि यार
yeah.
अब आई थिंक वी कैन लर्न अ लॉट फ्रॉम दिस गाय। सो
Uh,
so he handheld us in terms of how each opal happened, and it was on the back of a lot of ground force which were not ITC employees but people or villagers in itself, which became micro entrepreneurs for ITC. So we then had micro entrepreneurs across the country on the back of the e-chopal model कि यार ऐसा होता है, ऐसा करेंगे तो so हमारे माइक्रो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स पैन इंडिया थे, which were villagers, which were
and these people would be like your
kids. They
primary
were kids
supplier.
of not micro entrepreneurs were primarily suppliers, but they would be the kids of either artisans or who would be aspiring to go to a BPO in a Pune or in a Delhi, right? And then still wants to continue to work in his own village and stuff. So they were hired by us because we traveled everywhere, and they became our ear, eyes, and everything in the on the grounds. And
You're calling them entrepreneurs, which means they're not getting a salary, but they're getting a margin, right?
they were, I would say they were getting some fixed salaries from us actually. So their salaries
Acha.
would be in the range of
Okay.
around 15 to 25,000 rupees.
Okay.
And if we had to do some work here and there, then we would give them some bonus or variables also. So
Okay.
that's how
ठीक
it
है,
evolved.
ठीक. Got it. So
But
this was essentially your field force then. These were on
hmm,
payroll employees.
villagers were sitting in that village and making the manufacturing happen. So वहां
Okay.
पर क्या है कि अब हमें पता लग गया कि यार 18 दिन 20वें दिन धागा नहीं आया, तो पता है कि अब धागा हमें जीरो डे में, पता है कि धागा आना चाहिए था तो धागा नहीं आया है, तो हमारा माइक्रो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जाते थे वहां पर काम करवा देते। दैट्स हाउ दैट जुगाड़ हेल्प्ड अस फिगर आउट द डोमेस्टिक इंडियन सप्लाई। एंड वेरी इंटरेस्टिंगली वी ऑल्सो फिगर्ड आउट कि यार अगर आपको इंडियन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में होल्ड चाहिए, जो हमारा आज की डेट में बहुत स्ट्रांग है, मतलब आई कैन से लिटरली दैट वी आर द लार्जेस्ट एग्रीगेटर ऑफ टेक्सटाइल एमएसएमईज इन द कंट्री एंड मेक देम create goods which are relevant for them actually, right? So for running their factories throughout the year, and हमारा vision भी ये है कि यार we will be the largest exporter in the textile space from India on the back of and the strength of all of these manufacturers which we have been working for many years now. But it all starts from also building an ecosystem revolving around these MSMEs. अब इन एमएसएमईज का इकोसिस्टम क्या, वो धागा एक्चुअली क्या, उसका उसका मन अच्छा है, उसको धागा तो जीरो डे पे खरीदना था, बट वो 20वें दिन तक नहीं खरीद पाता क्योंकि उसका पैसे नहीं है खरीदने के। अब वो किससे धागा खरीदने जाता है? वो धागा खरीदने जाता है उस गांव में जो ब्रोकर मिडिलमैन है उससे। वो ब्रोकर मिडिलमैन किसी और से धागा खरीदता है जो बड़े शहर में बैठा है, और बड़े शहर वाला मिल से फैक्ट खरीदता है। ये ब्रोकर होता है, वो उसको ब्याज भी देता है 3-4% महीने का। हमें ब्याज मिलता है 1-1.5% पे एज ए बड़ी कंपनी, इनको ब्याज मिलता है 3-4% पे। इनका धंधा 8-10 करोड़ का भी होता है, बहुत सारे हमारे मैन्युफैक्चरर्स का जो गांव में बैठे हैं, बट इनको तब भी वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट्स नहीं मिलती है, राइट? बैंक से, क्योंकि बैंक को पता ही नहीं है बंदा कौन है, फाइनेंशियल हिस्ट्री नहीं है इसकी। So it's building a very strong ecosystem revolving around these manufacturers, which revolves around from also helping them source raw materials, helping them source the right finance, helping them get the understanding of creating the right design, गिविंग देम द राइट मर्चेंडाइजिंग ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अ गुड फॉर एक्सपोर्ट क्वालिटी. अगर मेरे को यूनिक्लो को माल देना है जापान में, या जियो को माल देना है, या फ्लैंडर को माल देना है, तो दीज गाइज शुड नो कि यार कैसा माल कटना चाहिए, कैसा बनना चाहिए, क्या होना चाहिए, सो दैट दे आर एट पार टू अ गाय सिटिंग इन चाइना, वियतनाम, कंबोडिया, लाओस. बट इंडिया में क्या है कि दीज गाइज कैन नॉट डू इट देमसेल्व्स. सो इंडिया में फुल स्टैक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लेटफॉर्म की जरूरत है, एंड वी आर द लार्जेस्ट फुल स्टैक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लेटफॉर्म बिकॉज we help them source everything by an ecosystem revolving around all of these values which they need, and a toolkit for making goods which they should create for the world. So now coming to the product type, हमारा प्रोडक्ट डोमेस्टिक मार्केट सब इंटरनेशनल मार्केट शिफ्ट हो गया. तो वहां पर वी वर डूइंग एवरीथिंग नाउ, सो विच इज सॉफ्ट होम्स में जैसे हम टीजे मैक्स, बर्लिंगटन, रॉस, ओएसजेएल, मार्शल्स, इन सबको हम लोग बेड लिनन, कर्टन्स, कुशन कवर्स ये सब देते हैं. और इनकी फैक्ट्रीज भी सेट हैं जो ये बनाती हैं. For the first time in India, these factories have been giving goods to these large big box retailers in the US. Right? Similarly, there have been factories which have been creating goods for buyers in the Middle East or in Japan. So India manufactures close to $282 billion worth of textile. ये उसमें से बस 40 बिलियन ही एक्सपोर्ट होता है. The rest 240 odd billion is consumed domestically, which is of no purpose actually. So ये माल बनना भी चाहिए इंडिया में, और रेलेवेंट बनना चाहिए, so that कि आप इसको बाहर लेके जा सको. And that's where we want to create a dent and be like literally 10 times a Shahi exports, or 20 times a Gokuldas exports, or right 2 times a PDS, and become the largest exporter from our country, because India's backbone is its manufacturers only, which are MSMEs.
Okay, got it. So, what all did you create on your platform? Then you mentioned that a toolkit for manufacturing. You mentioned input, like maybe selling them the thread itself, and you mentioned financing, working capital financing. Just take me through what all you built.
So see, it all starts by giving धंधा to these people. So तभी ट्रस्ट डेवलप होता है. कल को मैं जाके उनको बोलूंगा कि चलो मैं आपका फैब्रिक आके सोर्स करना चाहता हूँ, तो बोलेंगे कि सर मैं लेता हूँ ऑलरेडी. मैं आपका फाइनेंस सोर्स करना चाहता हूँ, तो मैं लेता हूँ ऑलरेडी. तो इट स्टार्ट्स बाय बिल्डिंग रिलेशनशिप्स वन स्टेप एट अ टाइम. तो उनको धंधा चाहिए पहले. वंस यू स्टार्ट गिविंग देम बिजनेस, नो मैटर वो डोमेस्टिक हो रहा है, इंटरनेशनल हो रहा है, which we have been doing across different business models in the last 5-6 odd years, like पहले domestic unorganized retail, फिर domestic urban organized retail, और अब exports. So they have that trust कि यार इस कंपनी से मेरे को साल का 50-60 लाख रुपए मिलता है. सो उसके बाद देन इट कम्स कि यार अब मेरे को अगर जापान माल भेजना है, तो मेरे जापान वाले बायर को लिटरली मैं कुछ भी नहीं बेच सकता हूँ. उसको ये भी देखना है कि यार धागा क्या है, कपड़ा क्या बना, और कपड़े से फिर फाइनल गुड क्या बना एक्चुअली. सो देन वी फैसिलिटेट. हम अपने बुक्स पे लेके नहीं आते, बिकॉज वी आर नॉट अ रॉ मटेरियल कंपनी एक्चुअली, or a commodity trading company. So we do not get it on our books, but we facilitate to buy from our trade partners, where we tell we have partnerships with mills and yarn companies कि यार आप हमारे एमएसएमईज को धागा दो या कपड़ा दो, हमारा एमएसएमई खरीदेगा आपसे. नंबर वन.
So, but you're doing collective bargaining basically.
Exactly. So
Okay.
for instance, like so
Do
we
you
have
make a
now.
margin here? Like, अगर आप मिल्स को धंधा दिला रहे हो ना, by giving
Correct.
them
Correct.
MSME
But
customers.
not by selling, because it doesn't come to my book, but eventually I earn margins because I consolidate my entire supply chain actually on the back end. So जहां ये कपड़ा इनको 100 रुपए का पड़ता था, वो आज कपड़ा इनको शायद 92 रुपीज का पड़ रहा है, बिकॉज ये अब मिडिल मैन से नहीं ले रहे हैं. अब ये सीधे फैक्ट्री से उठा रहे हैं माल, बिकॉज हम कंसोलिडेट कर रहे हैं वहां की सारी डिमांड. और हम
And that gets passed on to you, the cost benefit, some of it.
एग्जैक्टली. सो अगर पहले मेरे को माल मिलता था
Okay.
जो सब स्टैंडर्ड क्वालिटी का माल था, लेट से 150 रुपए पे, अब वो मेरे को 140 रुपए का मिलता है.
Got it.
That's
ठीक है,
where
interesting.
that's where we squeeze our margins as well on the supply side. Number one. Now comes finance. So finance में we onboarded a couple of NBFC partners with 90 of our MSMEs in last year. And this eventually exploded like crazy, because ये NBFCs were very happy कि यार इनको ये MSMEs मिल गए. ये MSMEs were very happy क्योंकि हमें लोन मिल गया at 1.2-1.3% a month, जहां मैं 4% महीने का ब्याज दे रहा था अपने मिडिलमैन ब्रोकर को.
But
तो
ये 1.2 का एक्सेस कैसे मिला है? अंडरराइटिंग कैसे हुई इनकी?
सो अभी क्या है कि हम लोगों ने अंडरराइट किया एमएसएमईस को, और हम लोगों
Okay.
ने फुल गारंटी ली एनबीएफसीज के साथ कि यार देखो, हम अगर ये कोई डिफॉल्ट होगा तो हम बेसिकली आपको पूरा पैसा देंगे, राइट?
ठीक है, and
दैट
because you are his customer, so you can withhold his payment अगर default हुआ तो, so you have
करेक्ट,
that power.
करेक्ट,
Very
करेक्ट।
interesting. Okay, ठीक है।
बट अब क्या हुआ कि यार वी रियलाइज्ड कि यार दिस इज ह्यूज। मेरे पास 2200 एमएसएमईज हैं पैन इंडिया आज की डेट में रजिस्टर्ड, जिसका मेरे पास स्टैन पैन जीएसटी एड्रेस वगैरह उनका फाइनेंशियल लेजर्स एंड टू एंड मेरे पास है। और ये एमएसएमईज क्या है, ये नानो नहीं है ये, क्योंकि अब हमारा स्केल भी बढ़ गया। तो पहले हम कारीगरों से काम करते थे, अब कारीगर जहां काम करते हैं कॉपरेटिव्स या ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस या प्राइवेट लिमिटेड प्रोप्राइटरशिप कंपनीज उन गांवों में, उनके साथ हम काम करते हैं जिनका धंधा 8 करोड़ से लेके 30 करोड़ की रेंज में। तो ऑन एन एवरेज लिटरली 2200 एमएसएमई जिनका धंधा 8 करोड़ से 30 करोड़ इंडिविजुअली है, ये तो गोल्ड माइन है बैंक्स और एनबीएफसी के लिए। क्योंकि हमारे सरकार बोलती रहती है प्राइवेटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग है, चिल्ला चिल्ला के, तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर लेंडिंग है ये, और इनको एक्चुअली पता ही नहीं है कि यार ये लोग कौन है। इन सप्लायर्स को भी नहीं पता कि बैंक और एनबीएफसी कौन है जिससे मैं लोन ले सकता हूँ। सो इट्स ए नेचुरल, आई वुड से, डिमांड सप्लाई गैप which an aggregator like us solves. What helps us? What helps us is a very strong trust and ecosystem which we are building, very similar to an ITC ECHOPAL kind of structure which these guys have built across giving inputs to these people. So that is number one, and also optimizing our gross margins. क्योंकि जहां वो 8% ब्याज देता था 2 महीने का, अब वो 3% ब्याज दे रहा है, तो 5% तो उसका ऐसे ही बच गया एक्चुअली। तो वो मेरे को भी प्राइस बेनिफिट देगा एक्चुअली उससे, राइट? And so that is something which has become very interesting, and we have a US entity now. So US entity से हम इनको पहली बार इन लोगों को डॉलर पेमेंट्स मिल रही हैं। इनको स्किल किया गया है कि यार अब देखो आपको डॉलर पेमेंट मिलेगी तो आप लेवरेज ले सकते हो ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक्स का, आरओएसटीएल का, जीएसटी आईजीएसटी का, राइट?
ये क्या 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 एडवांटेज देंगे, जस्ट
सो
टेक मी
आप
थ्रू
सो
देम।
हमारी सरकार क्या करती है कि अगर आप कोई भी इंडियन मैन्युफैक्चरर अगर कुछ एक्सपोर्ट करता है इंडिया से माल बाहर, तो हर एक एचएसएन कोड या प्रोडक्ट कैटेगरी का एक ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक, आरओएसटीएल और जीएसटी आप रिफंड ले सकते हो गवर्नमेंट से। ये गवर्नमेंट बेनिफिट्स हैं आप एक्सपोर्ट के, विच आर इन द ट्यून ऑफ एनीवेयर इन बिटवीन 3% to 7% हमारे कैटेगरी के लिए। तो ये भी उसको बेनिफिट मिलता है क्योंकि उसको ये पैसा मिलता है वापस, गवर्नमेंट से आता है उसको पैसा, क्योंकि उसको लालटेन इंक आईएनसी से ऑर्डर मिला, परचेस ऑर्डर, उसने लालटेन इंडिया ने कोऑर्डिनेट किया पूरा ऑर्डर, उसने डायरेक्टली माल भेज दिया वहां पर, हमारी टीम ने फैसिलिटेट किया बेसिकली सब कुछ करने के लिए। बट उसको जब डॉलर पेमेंट मिलता है तो उसको ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक्स वगैरह क्लेम होता है, तो उसका प्राइस ऑफ कंजम्पशन एक्चुअली घट गया। तो वो मेरे को एक्चुअली एडवांटेज देता है मेरे कॉस्ट पे। तो मैंने उसको कॉस्ट, अपना कॉस्ट, मैंने ग्रॉस मार्जिन कहाँ से बनाया? एक तो रॉ मटेरियल्स को हेल्प करके सोर्स करके, दूसरा फाइनेंस सोर्स करके, तीसरा इंटरनेशनल डॉलर पेमेंट देके। तो अब वो गुड जो पहले मेरे को जो 150 रुपए का मिलता था वो आज 120 का मिलता है। बड़े बड़े ब्रांड्स हैं यूएस में भी, आप जैसे लगा लो टीजे मैक्स, रॉस, बर्लिंगटन, इस तरह के। इनको क्या है यार, इनके पास, इनको जिंदगी भर सालों सालों से इनको बस चाइना, वियतनाम, कंबोडिया लाया उसके माल ही मिला है। अगर आप इनके तरह से सोचोगे तो इनका सक्सेस क्या है? इनका सक्सेस है कि इनका माल ज्यादा बिके। इनका माल ज्यादा कब बिकेगा? जब कंज्यूमर को नया वैरायटी दिखेगा। So the single rule of retail industry is that if your consumer is offered new assortment of products, that consumer is happy. That consumer will buy more from you, right? सो या प्रोडक्ट में कोई इनोवेशन करो या आईपी करो कि प्रोडक्ट गर्मी में ठंडा है, ठंडी में गर्म है, जैसे ये सब चीजें भी होती हैं, राइट? सो जैसे हम लोग अभी तोयोशिमा में गए थे, मैं और संचित, यूएस में, एंड वहां पर ये जापान में, और वहां पर उनके लैब में गए तो वहां पर अलग अलग ही चीजें हो रही हैं एक्चुअली। वहां पर अलग अलग तरह के कपड़े और ये सब बनाए जा रहे हैं। तो वो काफी इंटरेस्टिंग था बिकॉज जापान इन इटसेल्फ इज इन्वेस्टिंग अ लॉट ऑन दिस थिंग। बट देखो इंडिया में ये सब चीजें नहीं है। तो इंडिया में क्या है कि इंडिया में द मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैव अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग असॉर्टमेंट ऑफ प्रोडक्ट। सो दिस असॉर्टमेंट ऑफ प्रोडक्ट इज लाइक व्हाट, दिस आर आर्टिसन मेड प्रोडक्ट। जैसे कि एम्ब्रॉयडरी, ये दुनिया ने कहाँ देखी है? चिकनकारी कहाँ देखा है दुनिया ने? या फिर लिटरली यार 18 steps of making an ajrak block print through natural dyes, so which happens in Gujarat, or a bag block print, और जामदानी और तांत और निकल करंजी में आपके ये होते हैं इकट्स, राइट? So India has 80 plus textile hubs across the country, which literally I would say is gold for India. पर इंडिया एक्सपोर्ट कहां से करता है? तिरुपुर, रोड, कोयम्बतूर, मुरादाबाद, सहारनपुर, लुधियाना, पानीपत, जयपुर, लिटरली 6-7 जगह है जहां हाथ में खत्म हो जाती हैं ये एक्चुअली. पर इंडिया में 80 प्लस टेक्सटाइल बेल्ट्स हैं. ये बेल्ट्स में इंडिविजुअली अगर आप देखोगे ना, भागलपुर का साल का टर्नओवर 1800 से 2000 करोड़ रुपए का है. क्या बनाते हैं वो? साड़ियां. या फिर आप अमरोहा, यहाँ पर नोएडा में मैं बैठा हूँ, यहाँ से 1.5 घंटे दूर है अमरोहा. वहां पर पूरे गांव का टर्नओवर अराउंड 850 करोड़ रुपए का. क्यों बनाते क्या है? बेडशीट्स. तो
So,
सो
what do you supply to, like, say, a Uniqlo? Uniqlo, I've never seen like embroidery or any of these traditional techniques that you're talking about.
so now all of these brands are also becoming conscious for interesting assortments which they want, which is not available in other countries. बाकी countries में क्या है कि another thing क्या है कि India is a spring summer destination. क्योंकि इंडिया में क्या है कि हम लोग एक्सपर्ट हैं कुर्तियां बनाने के लिए. इंडिया में समर्स और ट्रॉपिकल क्लाइमेट ज्यादा है. ऑलमोस्ट 8-9 months it is there. So हम लोग, we are not the experts into creating winter wear or outwear, which Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, China is. So India has always been a kurti manufacturing country. बट अब क्या है कि इंडिया की ये स्ट्रेंथ है, तो ये इंडिया की अपॉर्चुनिटी भी है. बिकॉज दैट्स वेयर वी कैन नॉट कॉम्पीट फॉर विंटर वेयर, बट वी कैन कॉम्पीट फॉर स्प्रिंग समर सीजन्स फॉर द इंटरनेशनल मार्केट. सो नाउ फॉर यूनिक्लो we give a lot of embroidery products to them in men's tops, women's tops. We give them an autumn winter collection in wool as well, to their another sister company called as GU. So I think that's very interesting because अभी क्या है कि इकोनॉमिक, मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक वाइज चाइना +1 है ही, क्योंकि चाइना में भी एनीवे एक्सपोर्ट incentives have been reduced drastically. The cost of yarn and the cost of fabric is literally at par or even cheaper in India than happening in China. So people are also wanting to move. But the only challenge is कि a GU or a Uniqlo can never operate in India unless they have a licensing office in India, or they would have understanding of big manufacturers which are like a Shahi, Gokuldas and kind of guys like these, right? And इंडिया में एक्सपोर्टर्स भी यही हैं यार. शाही का धंधा 7-8 हजार करोड़ रुपए का है, गोकुलदास 1800 करोड़ रुपए है. Then what else? So I think there's a huge opportunity into creating a cloud factory by backward integrating India's manufacturers which are in small towns, giving them a toolkit and an ecosystem so that they can be at par to global manufacturers, and creating a full stack platform to enable them and an aggregator reach out to global brands. मतलब मेरे पास तो खुद का कोई फैक्ट्री नहीं है, तो मेरा सबसे बड़ा एडवांटेज है वो. क्योंकि अगर मेरे पास 20 मशीन की फैक्ट्री है तो उसको मैं फ्लैंडर से कनेक्ट कर सकता हूँ. मेरे पास 500 मशीन की फैक्ट्री है, मैं उसको यूनिक्लो से कनेक्ट कर सकता हूँ. माई जॉब इज टू डू कैपेबिलिटी मैपिंग of Indian manufacturers, where I have established strong relationships and trust across last 5-6 years to global brands, which wants to jump into India to make things happen.
One question: these global brands will give you a product and say कि मुझे इसके 1,000 pieces चाहिए, or you will show them, like, say, 50 to 100 different products, and whatever they like they will say कि मुझे इसके 1,000 pieces चाहिए. How does it happen?
So it's a trust establishment actually game, right? A game between trust between both the entities. मैं कल को अगर बड़े कंपनी के पास जाऊंगा और मैं उसको बोलूंगा अच्छा आपने डिजाइन दो मैं बना के आता हूँ, वो नहीं देगा मेरे को. बट सो मेरे को पहले अपना एक्सपर्टीज दिखाना पड़ेगा, कैपेबिलिटीज की. देखो यार मैं ये बनाता हूँ, मेरा ये कलेक्शन है, आपको अच्छा लग रहा है तो मैं इसमें से आप सिलेक्ट कर लो, मैं आपको उसका ऑर्डर बना के दे सकता हूँ. वो फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड ऑर्डर आता है. उसके बाद क्या ब्रांड को लगता है कि यार ये अच्छा मैन्युफैक्चरर है, अच्छा डिजाइन दिखाता है, अच्छा टाइम पे देता है, अच्छा माल टाइम पे प्रोडक्शन बनाता है, क्वालिटी सही है इनका. तो अब एक काम करता हूँ, मेरे जो 5 और SKU बांग्लादेश जा रहे थे या श्रीलंका जा रहे थे, मैं वो यहाँ डाल देता हूँ. चलो तुम बना के दो मेरे को अब. सो इट्स
Okay, like these brands have their in-house design teams, so उनके designs also start coming to you eventually.
correct. And very interestingly, what happens on the demand side is that we are accumulating a lot of data. मेरे पास क्या, मैं आज एक ब्रांड के साथ काम नहीं करता हूँ. मतलब if I have to talk about let's say one of the India's largest exporter is Shahi Exports. Unka, they have a turnover of around 8,000 crores, work with almost around 40 brands, right? So unko feedback 40 brands se milta hai. At my scale, I operate at 200 brands which are smaller than those brands which Shahi operates. तो मेरे को 200 brands का feedback मिलता है. I have a team in Japan, I have a team in US which are on the field. We have textile designer in Japan, we have a textile designer in the US which are Japanese and US citizens. Because बॉस हमें बस कपड़ा बनाना आता है और मैन्युफैक्चर करना आता है. मैं कल्चरली ओरिएंटेड नहीं हूँ और वायर्ड नहीं हूँ कि डिजाइन जापान में कैसे बनते हैं या यूएस में कैसे होते हैं. वो यूएस और जापानी सिटीजन ही मेरे को बता सकते हैं. But we have the best of the teams in design here in India. My head of design was the head of design of ITC Wills. She was there for almost 28 years, led their design vertical for many years. So she foundationally is the best person in design who understands design बनता कैसे है, but not culturally. तो ये लोग उनको feedbacks देते हैं और feedback डेटा से आता है. 200 ब्रांड्स का डेटा मेरे पास आता है डिजाइन का. तो मेरे को पता है कि यार ऑटम विंटर में जापान में क्या चलता है या स्प्रिंग समर में मिडिल ईस्ट या यूएस में क्या चलता है. और that helps me keep wiring better in terms of showing a brand when I go to them and more prepared कि यार इसको समझ में आ जाएगा मैं जो लेकर आया हूँ. क्योंकि मेरे पास इतना डेटा और इतने लोगों के साथ मैं काम कर रहा हूँ तो मेरे को my probability of success improves, right? So I think that's where that serviceability angle comes in for brands when they work with us.
Amazing. This again is similar to what you did when you were hiring interns. You wanted local people who can talk the language of that locality. Same thing you've done for your demand generation also.
Correct. नहीं, I think one thing very clear is कि अक्षय जो काम तुम नहीं कर सकते वो नहीं करना चाहिए एक्चुअली, क्योंकि वो आउटसोर्स कर दो. और देयर आर पीपल विच आर फार बेटर देन यू एक्चुअली हु कैन डू इट. And I think that's what it actually makes things work.
So what is your turnover today?
See, so we have been growing very aggressively in the last I would say 1.5-2 years since we tried to do export. Now majority of our business is exports actually. And abhi the focus entirely has shifted also in terms of enabling our company to become an EBITDA positive company. Because I'll tell you कि अब क्या बड़े brands के जब हम काम करते हैं ना तो हमें working capital चाहिए होता है. और वर्किंग कैपिटल के लिए मेरे को इक्विटी चाहिए होता है. अगर आपके बिजनेस अगर आपका लॉस मेकिंग है व्हेंस यू हैव हायर्ड सम ऑफ द बेस्ट पीपल इन द इंडस्ट्री वर्किंग फॉर यू एंड यू हैव इंटरनेशनल टीम्स, देन द बिजनेस ब्लीड्स. बट इरिस्पेक्टिव मेरे को इक्विटी चाहिए, क्योंकि मेरे को इक्विटी इसलिए नहीं चाहिए क्योंकि मेरे को धंधा नहीं कर सकता मैं इक्विटी के बिना. इक्विटी इसलिए चाहिए क्योंकि उनको डेट चाहिए एक्चुअली मार्केट से वर्किंग कैपिटल के लिए, क्योंकि मेरे बायर्स को मेरे साथ क्रेडिट में ही काम करते हैं बड़े लोग, राइट? नाउ वेयर वी विल बी मूविंग नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स इज कि वी हैव टू टर्न द कंपनी EBITDA positive ASAP and show PAT positive figures for at least 3-4 quarters and then try to get our company listed. क्योंकि उसका बेनिफिट बहुत है. उसका बेनिफिट ये है कि once you are listed, your debt leverage is not on basis of your only equity but also on your market cap, right? And at that point in time and there have been very successful stories like a PDS. No one has heard about them, but they are like fairly 10 times bigger than a Gokuldas exports or 2 times bigger than a Shahi exports. They are at 11,000 crores. They are also contract manufacturers, right? And they are a listed company as well. So they leverage a lot on in terms of their working capital as being listed and basis on the back of the market cap they have. So I think that's the journey where we are. To be very honest, I think it would have been very easier for us to be on a journey to scale a GMV of 500, 600 odd crores and then keep on burning investors' capital. I think we do not think like that primarily because we're a little different. And हमारी वायरिंग तो यार धंधे वाली है और दुकानदार वाली है एक्चुअली, जो मेरे दादा की थी या संचित के फादर की थी. मैं गुजराती हूँ, संचित बनिया है. और हम लोग क्या है कि मेरे को कभी समझ में ही नहीं आता है कि यार हम पैसा जला कैसे सकते हैं हर महीने. So वो I don't think is a long term vision for us also. I think the to raise capital and eventually scale a very large GMV. but I think at a fairly around 150 odd crores in this current financial year. And next financial year, by we will be around 280 odd crores. In that 280 crores, we will be orchestrating PAT positive figure for 2-3 quarters, and then try to figure out how we can get into the journey of being listed. Preparation आज से चालू कर दिया है. We have suppliers which are on credits with us. We have suppliers which are where we have created an ecosystem for them. There are almost 180 factories which are run by us actually, but not owned by us across in the textile space, right? So these guys can easily are the ones जिसके लिए मेरे को 300-400 करोड़ का धंधा मैं आराम से कर सकता हूँ. मेरे को और फैक्ट्रीज नहीं चाहिए होंगी. फाइनेंस हमारा बहुत स्ट्रांग है आज से ही. So we have already invested a lot of our money into finance, like hiring a good CFO and like multiple CAs in the company, getting us wired because हम engineers हैं यार, हमें इतना ज़्यादा समझ में नहीं आता finance जितना आना चाहिए था अगर हम पढ़ सकते थे finance तो. But now अब हमें पता है कि यार what needs to be done to take the journey towards profitability first and then wired towards listing also. So I think that's the phase where we will be in the next 1-2 odd years.
So you want to be bigger than a Gokul Das one day, which is at or bigger than Shahi. Eventually, your goal is to like say reach 10,000 crores kind of a turnover. So, are you looking at this like a 20-year journey, or do you think you will get there before that?
See, so we think that it would not take us 20 years because we जहाँ टाइम लगता है ना वो आपको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेटल करने में लगता है. और वहां पर बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां हैं वो भी 3-4 साल से कर रही हैं, बट उनको बहुत टाइम लगेगा. जैसे रिलायंस टाइप कंपनी है, उनको इंडियन ग्रासरूट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेटल करने में. आई थिंक वी हैव दैट एज over a lot of large corporates and even other companies which are new age companies. So 2200 MSMEs के साथ I in itself sit on close to around anywhere around 18 to 20,000 crores of production visibility. क्योंकि ऑन एन एवरेज इनका धंधा 10 करोड़ का तो है ही 2200 एमएसएमईस का, राइट? नॉट टू बी एट अ रेवेन्यू what you said, I think it would not take us 20 years, but it will, let's say it will take us another 8 to 10 years because I already have that supply throughput. I just need to replicate the formula of what I've done with 180 MSMEs to, let's say, 500 MSMEs or 700 MSMEs. And it's a supply constrained sector. Global demand is infinite. And global demand is wanting to jump on to getting orders. Literally, to be very honest, मेरे को orders क्रैक करने के लिए और predictable revenue create करने के लिए बिल्कुल effort नहीं मारना पड़ता. क्योंकि जैसे ही हम प्रोडक्ट लेके जाते हैं तो उनको पता है, हमें पता है कि ऑर्डर आ जाता है हमारे पास. बस ये पूरा गेम सर्विसिबिलिटी का है एक्चुअली. एंड एंड दैट्स वेयर वी आर वेरी स्ट्रांग फाउंडेशनली बिकॉज हमने है ना हमारे हाथ जलाए हैं एक्चुअली डोमेस्टिक ब्रांड्स को भी ऑर्डर देते हुए, राइट? बिकॉज हम 3 इंजीनियर्स को पता नहीं था टेक्सटाइल क्या होता है, कपड़ा क्या होता है, धागा क्या होता है. सो वी अंडरस्टैंड नॉट फ्रॉम 30,000 feet but 6 feet literally कि यार what has to be done needs to be done on the supply side. So, and foundationally we are very strong in terms of our processes, in terms of SOPs, and how these MSMEs are backward integrated to us. So becoming a 10,000 odd company isn't I would say impossible for us. I think impossible क्या होगा? Impossible ये होगा कि मतलब can we create it the next, you can say, a Li and Fung or a Reliance equivalent kind of multi-billion dollar kind of corporation in top line revenues, not valuation, right? So I think that's something which is impossible, which I think which is something we also dream of कि यार इंडिया की सबसे बड़ी टेक्सटाइल कंपनी और दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी टेक्सटाइल कंपनी कैसे बन सकती है. बट आई थिंक वी आर वेरी पेशेंट एज इट हैपेंस. 10,000 करोड़ तो हम, मेरे को आई डोंट सी in 8 to 10 years is impossible for a company like ours to do.
Very interesting insight. I've interviewed a bunch of founders in this space, and most of them, the very well funded ones, are solving supply problem. And now I understand why they are the well funded one. Like Fashionza, Loco Fast, all of these are solving supply problems. So now I get it. So what you're saying is if you solve supply, demand is infinite. Very interesting insight. Okay. So now these 220 MSME factories are like your cloud factories. What are you doing for uh, operating them. But you are in a way virtually operating them, right? Like, so do you have like an operating system through which you ensure quality?
Correct. See, so we have a very interesting relationship with our suppliers. Most of our suppliers have Lal10 boards on top of it. They claim that they're Lal10 factories themselves. Why? Because they वो एज अ फैक्ट्री उनका सोल काम है मैन्युफैक्चर करना, प्रोड्यूस करना. उनको एक्चुअली झमेले में पड़ना ही नहीं है कि मेरे को जर्मनी जाके किसी ट्रेड शो में जाना है, या न्यूयॉर्क जाके ट्रेड शो में जाना है, या जापान जाना है ट्रेड शो में. उनको क्या है कि पूरे साल अपनी फैक्ट्री चलनी चाहिए, उनके लोगों को दिहाड़ी मिलनी चाहिए कंपनी में. आई थिंक उनका सबसे कोर जॉब ये है, बेस्ट ये है कि उनको और अच्छी इनकम मिल जाए, उनके मार्जिन बढ़ जाएं. दैट्स इट. नाउ वी हैव डेफिनेटिव एमओयूज विद आवर सप्लायर्स. इट बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेट्स फ्रॉम आवर बायर्स. मेरे को बायर से क्या है, हमारे सेक्टर में 2-3 क्वार्टर इन एडवांस हमें विजिबिलिटी होती है ऑर्डर्स की. तो माई डिमांड टीम्स प्लान्स इन एडवांस की यार आज की डेट में ऑर्डर उठ रहे हैं क्रिसमस के 2024 के. राइट. सो लाइक लिटरली आवर इंडस्ट्री ऑपरेट्स 3-4 क्वार्टर्स इन एडवांस. सो मेरे को पता है कि यार अगले 9 महीने की विजिबिलिटी ऑर्डर्स की क्या है मेरे डिमांड टीम से. नाउ वी हैव एमओयूज विद आवर सप्लायर कि यार इतना डिमांड मेरे पास है, इसको हमने मैप कर दिया इन फैक्ट्रीज के साथ. इट्स बेसिकली कैपेबिलिटी मैपिंग ऑफ दीज फैक्ट्रीज टू दिस डिमांड. नंबर 1. Number 2, we have set SOPs, processes, toolkits across sourcing of raw material. कपड़ा कैसे कटेगा, कपड़ा कैसे प्रोडक्शन पे लगेगा, कपड़ा कैसे पैक होगा, कपड़ा कैसे डिलीवर होगा. Across all of these levels with the MSMEs, and my teams handhold it on the shop floors of MSMEs. So the factory is owned by someone else, but he probably might not be as literate as to run that factory, but only own that asset. But we run that factory for him. We literally manage his entire P&L, right? And now all of this is also backward integrated with our internal ERPs. So my third co-founder Albin, he has been with us in the journey for the last 6 years with a very strong empathy in terms of understanding the suppliers. Traveling across the country, we know what problem to solve. We have created very basic, rudimentary level, I would say ERP to solve the problems for that. And the ERP, very interesting, is also in vernacular. बिकॉज हमारे जो सप्लायर्स हैं वो भागलपुर बैठे हैं, वो बंगाल भी बैठे हैं, वो गुजरात भी बैठे हैं, वो इक्कल करंजी भी बैठे हैं आंध्र प्रदेश में. तो सो वी हैव अ वर्नाकुलर ईआरपी एक्चुअली, बिकॉज वो शॉप फ्लोर पे जो फैक्ट्री वाला बंदा है, मेरा लोकल रिसोर्स है, वो मेरे को पूरा टाइम एंड एक्शन शीट की विजिबिलिटी देता है कि माल 0 डे पे आ गया, 5वें दिन कटेगा, 10वें दिन प्रोडक्शन में लगेगा, 15वें दिन पैक होगा और 20वें दिन आपको बॉम्बे में मिल जाएगा नवा शेवा पे. तो वो 20 दिन की जो विजिबिलिटी है 200 ब्रांड के साथ करना इज ओनली पॉसिबल ऑन द बैक ऑफ अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ईआरपी which is also used by our teams. The bigger challenge across the industry is कि आपने ERP बना लिया बट कोई यूज नहीं करना चाहता फैक्ट्री पे या फिर लोकल रिसोर्सेस. बट हमारे यहाँ उल्टा है, क्योंकि हमने जो बनाना था वो हमने इम्प्लेस नहीं किया. हमने वहां से सुना कि यार आपको क्या चाहिए, what are your problems, and then created it. And why? Because we've been doing it for long now. We empathize, we understand the problems from the root of it actually. So we are on top of what needs to be created to solve this, right? So I think that's where technology is integrated to make these factories cloud.
Okay, got it. Help me understand you versus the other players in this space. So like this, broadly, I say there's like a B2B supply, fashion B2B supply space. So like, how are you different from Fashionza, Locofast, Business? These are three I've personally interviewed all three founders, so I know of these. There might be others also.
Sure. Yeah, I think very interesting, Akshay. I think time and again, a lot of people have come across and asked us. But to be very honest, when people come to our office, they understand in the first half an hour how we are very different. Because we are very, very different, yeah, than any one of these. Because, and with due respect, every entrepreneur has their own vision and how they would want to build the organization. But I think we are not very similar to any of these. we are very similar to how a PDS, Shahi, or a Gokul Das thinks. Our margins are very similar to what the PNL would look like for a PDS or a Shahi Gokul Das, right? So that's how we are very different. So while our top line might be little lesser than these people, but our bottom line maybe possibly be larger.
But there are different spaces also, right? That each of you would be occupying. Like in terms of your niche would be different from their niche, or there are like overlapping niches. Like I think, for example, Locofast is not into ready to wear products. I think they're more into the fabric, right?
Correct. See, so you are right actually. So as well as I understand, I think they are into commodities where they are trying to solve the raw material for the local manufacturers. We do not do that. Number one. Some of the other companies which are well funded in the sector, they work with manufacturers in Bangladesh, Tirupuri Road, Coimbatore, and Ludhiana, Panipat, right? So which are already large exporters. So we do not, you're correct in that sense that we do not cater to that market as well on the supply side actually. While our products might be very similar on the demand side, which they would be creating. And see, by far we feel that there is no problem to be solved for a guy sitting in Coimbatore doing a 50 crore business because his father, his forefather has been going to New York, Germany, Japan in exhibitions, working with 5 of these people, which were buyers. So उसको धंधा भी है उसके फैक्ट्री भी चल रही है. There is no pain point for him other than capital, right? So I think that's one of the key problems which some of the other people solve, and with due respect of what they have been able to solve of their own challenges or merits, I cannot comment on that. But I
This you're
think
talking
we
of
are
Fashions, like Fashions works with more larger players who already are well established.
correct. And see, so
Okay.
the problem they identify and solve is primarily on the capital side with a large guy sitting in Coimbatore or a Bangladesh, right? So the gross margin profile isn't very interesting because that gross margin profile comes on the back of some value which we bring in by giving operational credit to some of these people, right? And stuff. So I cannot comment in terms of serviceability as well. That how strong they would be in terms of serviceability or what's the churn in terms of our buyers, the buyers they have. I think for us, I can tell you that we are in a business of farming than hunting. मतलब, I will not be hunting 200, 500,000 brands across the globe, but I would want to hunt only 200 or 300 at a time and then farm so that वो 1 करोड़ का धंधा उनके साथ कब 5 करोड़ का बन सकता है, वो 5 करोड़ का धंधा कब 10 करोड़ का बन सकता है, and I go into their wallet share and like expand. And why can I do that? Fairly simple because a TJ Maxx operates, let's example, or a Ross works in a soft home product like a cushion, curtain, comforter, table linen, and all. I have to map a cushion to a factory in India, a curtain to a factory in India, a bed linen to a factory in India, and that's it. And individually, all of this is around 3 crores worth of wallet shares in a quarter. So sufficiently around 50, 60 crores coming in from Ross in itself, right? With my one vendor code which I have with Ross, right? So from that lens we are very differently wired than but this is very simple to similar to what a PDS or a Gokul Das also thinks through. So I think, and we try to solve a tougher problem on the supply side by and I think that's where the differentiator for us comes from.
Okay, and I think in case of business, their probably category is more on shoes, and they are not doing export. I believe they're more into domestic retail. I think.
See, I think as far as I understand they're more like Udan, right? And they're across different categories now also. They are in fashion, they're also in accessories and other things. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Cool. So, my just as like a wrap up question. So, what's advice that you would like to share with a young aspiring founder? Like, based on what you have learned in your journey, what are some of those lessons that so that people don't have to learn the hard way?
Correct. No, I think I feel that I'm still in the journey, Akshay, to be very honest. So I think it might be like chota muh badi baat. But I think one of the things which I can totally say that I think it's very important to have a very strong empathy to understand what you're trying to solve, right? I think it's also not a small journey or a short journey. I think it is a long journey, and there cannot be a plan B at all. There has always to be a plan A, what you want to solve. And you have to persevere in terms of what you believe into solving, right? And one day or the other, it will come through. And the last thing which I would say is that not to be distracted as well, because see, there's a lot of distraction going around in the market and in the industry, right? Someone will come and they will raise a lot of capital, and then someone will go as soon as they have come as well, right? Like so, and I don't see that we have to be distracted and stuff. So I feel that that is the most important. And lastly, I would say that you are because of your people in the company, and I think that trust level is very important between you and your people, and which are colleagues and employees, to build a culture which where they are also heard, and they even contribute more to the and bring in more on the table. So I think they are the ones which would be with you on a longer journey, and they are the ones who should be the hero when the company eventually goes IPO, right? So both financially and non-financially. So eventually, I think that's the vision journey which you should see along with. And at the end of the day, you need to create a proper धंधा यार. धंधे में अगर पैसा नहीं बनेगा, then there is no point of that business model to exist. So I think that's something which should evolve with constant improvisations and pivots, uh, as there has always been a plan A, and you will maneuver through it what you want to do. And I think it's a long journey for us as well, moving forwards from here, because I think we are still constantly learning every single day. We are fairly a small company with high ambitions, and slowly and steadily we'll be there.
So your first big round of capital was 22, right? About $5.5 million you raised,
Correct.
which was like after 5 years of bootstrapping it and like really hustling like
Correct.
through the B plan competitions and stuff like that. What what was I mean, what changed? Why did you decide, okay, let's raise external capital? And was it an easy process or a difficult process?
Yeah. See, so first thing, I think what led us to get into raising capital was also because we wanted to go very large in terms of international markets. By 2021, we realized that we have to get into exports of what we were doing domestic only. And the opportunity was huge. What's going around with China, and everyone looking for alternative procurement centers was also becoming very interesting. And we didn't want to lose that opportunity actually. So now going international in itself was expensive. Having international teams was also expensive.
And
Participating in
working
B2B
capital.
fairs was also expensive. So I think that was when we realized that we needed to have some capital on the basis of which we can basically scale the demand. And on the supply side also, there has to be done a lot in terms of building that ecosystem and integrating it through technology as well, because we knew everything what needed to be done, but we couldn't because we were only trying to do it slowly. But and I think we were not afraid that koi aake aur kar lega, because that was also not possible, because the kind of problem we have solved is tough to solve actually. So if koi bhi agar aur bhi aata hai, to usko they have to go through us only, or invest another 5 10 years into doing it, right? So I think that was when we realized here we should raise some capital to build tech ecosystem revolving around supply, and go deeper in terms of demand.